In the next few minutes, you're going to learn 3 powerful tips from Saint Bernardine of Siena on how to fundraise for your Catholic cause. Hi, I'm Brice Sokolowski, the founder of CatholicFundraiser.net, a website that is completely dedicated to helping Catholics just like you with their fundraising. Whether you're just starting out, trying to raise more funds, or trying to learn new ways of fundraising, well, you're in the right spot, regardless if you are a lay apostolate, a religious order, a parish, or a diocese. You're in the right place. And before we dive into what Saint Bernardine can teach us about fundraising, just make sure that you download absolutely for free the 10 commandments to Catholic fundraising. These are simply 10 things that I think you should be doing, every Catholic should be doing when fundraising, because, well, these 10 steps have really helped me raise a lot of money, not for myself, but for a lot of great Catholic organizations. And at the same time, it's been downloaded by thousands of Catholics who have given the overwhelming thumbs up. So make sure that you download absolutely for free the 10 commandments to Catholic fundraising. You're going to find the link right below, whether you're watching via YouTube, on my website, or the podcast. The link is always going to be right below. Make sure to click it and download your free copy today. Okay, Saint Bernardine of Siena. If you see me look down or you hear me pause, that's because I am looking at my notes, which you can find. Again, the link is right below. Saint Bernardine of Siena, a 14th century Franciscan, and I'm going to go into a little bit of detail with the tips that he's giving us. I'll go into some more detail about who he is there, but he was called by Pope Pius II as the second St. Paul. This guy, and when I go through the tips, you're going to recognize why he was called St. Paul, the second St. Paul, and you're going to, I think, find his style of fundraising both reassuring, but at the same time, probably a little bit more difficult than what you normally think of when fundraising. So make sure that you're open to his ideas. I think they can help a lot of Catholics, especially who are starting out with their fundraising. So here are 3 tips, which I'm actually getting this from a book called The Life of Saint Bernardine. Again, the link is going to be right below. So it goes through who he was and what he did throughout his life. And there were 3 important moments, I think, in his life which kind of revolve around fundraising that I think would produce some fruit for you with your fundraising. So here are the 3 tips from the life of Saint Bernardine on how to fundraise. Okay, the first one is when you are starting out, it's best to start with absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. Saint Bernardine, from my understanding, he came from a very, a somewhat well-off to do family, if not very well-off, but he did have property from his parents, and he gave it all away. And as you see, a lot of saints give a lot of things away, and I think that's probably if you have a lot of stuff and you're trying to do something, sometimes the best thing to do is just kind of like, get rid of some stuff, get rid of some clutter. I know with my apostolate, CatholicFundraiser.net, I started with pretty much nothing. I bought 1 computer, cost me a few $100, and then I was off to the races. I've seen that to be the situation of a lot of Catholic nonprofits, especially big ones that you would know of today, started with nothing. And what I see is Catholics who are starting off trying to do fundraising first. And I think that's the wrong way to go. You don't want to be doing fundraising. Just start off with nothing. And as Saint Bernardine, I don't guess he says it, but it says in the book, it says, fall to poverty and privations of Christ. So that is recommendation number 1. Recommendation number 2 is be lean and effective with your nonprofit. Don't try and do too much. And Saint Bernardine, he did 2 very incredible things very young in his life. First is, I believe there was a plague in his area of Italy, and he went to help and volunteer at a hospital. So that's what he did. He helped, he cleaned the hospital, he worked with, making sure that people were taken care of. But after that, the second thing that he did is he took care of his aunt. I believe for at least a year, maybe more, but he was known throughout his life to, when he would preach and evangelize, he would stay there for a while. He wasn't trying to go out and do way too much stuff. And I think this is an important point with your nonprofit and fundraising, is that when you're trying to ask for donations, you don't have to be showing people that you're doing tons of stuff. Just show them that you're doing specific things very well. And I find that Catholics try and do way too much, and in the end, they don't really do anything. And they're just sitting still. So do what's in front of you and do it well, even if you think it's very, very small. So that is tip number 2. Tip number 3 is how to respond when someone says no. Well, the answer is to keep going. And Saint Bernardine explains us this. Once he asked someone who owned the boat to help him cross. It was either a lake or a river. The guy asked for money. Saint Bernardine simply says, look, I don't have any money. I've lived a life of poverty. I don't carry anything. If you could just please do it, please. The guy was adamant. He was not going to give Saint Bernardine any slack, and he wasn't going to let him on his boat. Well, what did Saint Bernardine do? He did not complain. He simply, I believe, he went on his knees and he prayed to God to help him. And what turns out, what happens is that Saint Bernardine arrived on the other side of the lake, the river, even before the boat was halfway there. And people say he was simply got there. So you don't have to pause because somebody says no, and you don't have to be upset if somebody says no. You just simply keep going. You don't stop. You obviously pray, but you keep pressing on, and God will provide ways. I hope that this has been helpful. Share this with someone that you know. God love you, and I look forward to speaking with you next week. Bye-bye.